Good morning, dear friends. Namaskar to all. Friends, tell me one thing. How many languages do you know? Okay. If you ask me how many languages I know, I would say I know around 5 languages. They are, the first one I would say is my mother tongue, which is not a language but a dialect. Then I would say Hindi. And then third, I would say I know Bangla, which I have learnt from my friends. Fourth, I would say I have learned from my neighbors, that is Assamese. Fifth, I would say since I am here in Dehradun for a couple of years, so I have picked up a word or two of Garhwali. And the last one, English. I don't dare to say that I know English because it's a foreign language. So friends, this is the topic of today, importance of multilingual skills in a globalized world with respect to learning of English as a foreign language. That's the topic of today. विश्व में बहुभाषी कौशल का महत्व, यही है आज का टॉपिक. For the newcomers who have just joined in, I would like to say NIEPVD stands for National Institute for the Empowerment of Persons with Visual Disabilities, Divyangjan, Dehradun. We now begin the technical session with the first speaker, Director NIEPVD, Shri Nachiketa Rao, on the topic Acquisition of English or Hindi Literacy and Working Memory.
मेरा हार्दिक नमस्कार. मैं राष्ट्रीय दृष्टि दिव्यांगजन सशक्तिकरण संस्थान देहरादून, जो कि एक 75 सालों से सेवाएं दे रहा है, वहाँ निदेशक हूँ. एंड आई कंग्रेचुलेट पुष्पांजलि मैडम. आई वेलकम ऑल द प्रोफेशनल, आवर वाइस चांसलर साहब, to this particular webinar, and I am really grateful that we are discussing about a topic which is of much meaning, to the extent that a cross-linguistic comparison of acquisition of literacy in Hindi and English and the relation to it with working memory actually is my PhD topic. So I am going to present out my understanding in terms of how working memory would be influencing out acquisition of Hindi and English literacy in children. So we start up. Free and compulsory education for all by the Government of India has been a policy, and it has been put forth by the Right to Education Act in 2009, and now it has become the responsibility of the state to identify issues which would be leading to facilitation of acquisition of literacy. So I will be presenting out 12 points based upon which I will be covering my presentation. My first point is literacy is the outgrowth of language and a major cause of school dropouts due to challenges in acquiring literacy, especially a foreign language, English. The second point is, unlike acquiring oral language, which is acquired reflexively, acquiring literacy is a meta skill, a metacognitive skill, which means that we have to consciously learn out the language. Hence, we need explicit reading instruction. It has been found that the most efficient way in preventing and managing reading difficulty is through giving explicit reading instructions, and explicit reading instruction targets conscious processing of language. So conscious processing of language, when it comes to linguistics, conscious processing of linguistics is metalinguistics. So the word meta comes into play, and meta means the conscious manipulation of structures needed for literacy success and to learn the association amongst smaller and larger parts of the graphic code. For example, to be a successful reader, children must eventually understand the relationship between phonemes, syllables and words. These insights can be provided through explicit literacy approaches, and I am cross-referring out all the references. So the word meta says that we require to consciously teach and learn literacy. It's not like acquiring oral languages. The third point is the part of metalinguistics which has been found to be specifically influencing out literacy is metaphonology, and the term metaphonology is the conscious use of phonological information, that is the sounds of one language at the level of script and how they combine with each other to form words. So the sounds, how they are represented in script and how they combine to form words, and this is required to process out written and oral languages. In metaphonology training, there are two domains on which we focus. One is phonics, the other is phonological processing. So phonics would be the sound which a particular representation makes, and phonological processing is the capability to identify out smaller chunks. For example, to say fan without fur would be a phonological processing capacity, and how that F sounds would be a phonics. The fourth point which I would like to put down is, unlike oral languages, writing systems can be classified into two basic categories. One would be the logographic systems of writing, another would be the alphasyllabic. The logographic systems of writing, like Japanese and Chinese, are systems where we code out the semantics or the meaning of what we are saying. For example, if you want to say tree, then you use a particular pictograph, and if you want to say forest, you use 2 or 3 trees put down at a particular point. So, in the logographic system, we put down thoughts or semantics, but in an alphasyllabary system, where we write down what we say. So, the sound which is being produced is coded out in an alphasyllabic system. So, the writing systems which represent speech sounds at the level of syllables, which are as well the phonemes of a language, would be alphasyllabaries. For example, alphasyllabaries would be all the 22 official languages of India. It's a myth that Dravidian languages are different from the Aryan languages. Indian languages are alpha-syllabary in nature. Alpha-syllabary systems again can be divided into alphabetic systems and syllabic systems. Alphabetic systems are systems like in English, where the alphabets correspond, rather they claim to correspond, that each alphabet would be corresponding to a particular sound unit which would be known as a phoneme. And there will be a syllabic system where each sound system corresponds to a syllabic unit, which will be a consonant vowel combination. Example in Japanese, kana. Our languages have both the properties of alphabets as well as syllables. That's why they are known as alpha syllabaries. Now again, alphabetic systems are divided into transparent or shallow orthography and opaque or deep orthography. The core meaning is that if you speak out a particular sound and if it directly corresponds to how it is written, it will be a shallow orthography where the spellings would be irregular, which means that, for example, if you say cat, then we know it's in Hindi, Odia, Bengali, any Indian languages, any Indian language, it will be composed of two syllables, ka and ta, and we have specific symbols for ka and specific symbol for ta. So that's a transparent example of a transparent orthography as compared to opaque orthographies like English, where the sound C or the alphabet C can actually have at least 6 combinations in different words. So that's an example of a deep or a opaque orthography. The example of how Hindi and English would differ in terms of orthography or writing systems has been put down here. For example, the word cat is there. We can see when it's written in English and when it is written in Hindi. English, the first difference is that it's a linear script. We write it straight like this. But Hindi or any Indian language would be a non-linear script because we would be putting up diacritics all around it. The second difference is that in this particular script, which is English, we have alphabets which are simple geometrical shapes. So they are visually easy to perceive. But here, in our script, we have syllabics which are represented with complex visual shapes, a bit difficult to process. The third difference would be in English, for example, the alphabet A can actually be represented out phonetically by A, I, R, U, A, and multiple type of presentations. That is one alphabet corresponding to many pronunciations. So that's where this phonics comes into play. We try teaching the child that one alphabet actually can be presented in multiple forms. But the same is not true for the alpha syllabaries or the Indian scripts, where we have alpha syllabaries. For example, K, it actually has a consonant along with a vowel. So the consonant-vowel combination is there. That's why it's a syllable. A CV combination is there. And the vowel and the consonants are separately arranged in the alphabetic scripts, but some consonant can stand alone as syllables as they have a inbuilt vowel. Hence it is known as the ambiguity. So these are a few differences among the script. They have their own implications because English is processed at the level of phonemes. We expect the child to know the set of phonemes which correspond to that particular alphabet. The auditory perceptual demands are quite heavy, which means that the moment we hear a particular sound or the moment we hear a particular word, for example, the word bread is given here, to write down the spelling of it or to spell out the spelling of it, in English, a child has to hear the sound at the level of individual phonemes in the word, break up the word to the level of phonemes, which is the highest auditory perceptual capability required, as shown in the pyramid, as compared to Hindi or any Indian language, which needs to be processed at the level of syllables, which is a much lower auditory perceptual capability. So in the general processing the word bread to write down the spelling, I am using the word bread because it is used, it's a Vaideshik Sabd which is there in Hindi and other Indian languages also, adapted from English. So if you have to write down bread, you have to write down actually two syllables, bread and the. But if you have to write down bread in English, you have to hear it at the level of phonemes, where you say it will be made up of br, d, and then the word bread comes in. So this way English puts up a much more higher auditory perceptual demand. The fifth point which I would like to say is that language specific differences are evident in the stage of literacy acquisition. Multiple theories have been put down. The most popular is first 1985 model, in which for English they say that there are three stages of acquisition: the logographic stage, the stage 1, the alphabetic stage, the stage 2, and the orthographic stage, the stage 3. But if we try comparing out the same model to Indian languages, Vimal Goswami and many other people have found out that syllabic languages do not follow the same pattern. So there is no universality of this particular model. It changes depending upon the script which is there. The sixth point is, this differences in script get reflected on the prevalence of specific learning disability, which is very high in English, 10 to 15%, as compared to Indian languages, which is low as 2.5% like in Tamil and Kannada, and in foreign languages like Japanese, Finnish and German. So the prevalence of learning disability, specific learning disability, has become a disability criteria, or it has become a disability in all the 21 disabilities which are prescribed by the Rights of Person with Disability Act 2016. So hence we need to worry about it also, because the prevalence of specific learning disability is also associated with the script. In a recent study in Chennai, they said that the prevalence of learning disability in English medium schools was 16 to 20%, while the prevalence of learning disability was as low as 0.015% in children learning Tamil. But the teacher said that probably there is a lack of awareness, etc., and because of which they are not capable of identifying out learning disability in Tamil speaking children. I have my views which are contrary to this, but still this was the article which was published. The next point is, I am a speech language pathologist. I work with children having auditory disorders and speech language disorders. The association which is American Speech and Hearing Association, says that as far as children with learning disabilities and literacy acquisition is concerned, there is a definite role of speech-language pathologists in terms of preventing out specific learning disability. Although American Speech and Hearing Association and Indian Speech and Hearing Association (ISHA) have recognized it, but it is yet to be reflected out in recent literature and in manuals like the DSM-5. So it is not yet being put into clinical practice, hence this needs to be known and some awareness is required in this area. The eighth point which I would like to say is that, does such intervention of metaphonology work? fMRI studies 2001, 2003, since then have shown that well-timed intervention reverses the course of reading disabilities, and there are subtle changes in the fMRI studies. So before remediation, you can see the stimulation in the occipito-temporal junction as well as in the temporofrontal junction, which is responsible for processing literacy, is quite low, but after remediation these areas are much more densely activated and much more focused activation can be seen in this area, and studies have shown that metaphonological skills are if they are specifically explicitly stimulated, the recovery rate of children with learning disabilities who are identified out early is as high as 95%, and this will be 7.16 times cheaper as compared to late intervention. So there is a requirement for early intervention. Early intervention would be possible if we can appreciate out language specific differences which would be leading to these learning disabilities. Hence it's important to know about it. The ninth point which I would like to emphasize is that, contrary to these research evidences, a lot of what is done in India is dependent upon the Western studies in English. Unfortunate, because we think that teaching methods in English are the solution to any language, and this is reflected in the books. You can see standard 2, standard 3 books where for example, we break our syllables. For example, when we were children, we were taught out, I don't know, it's like when at least my parents were children, they were taught down language in form of the 12 khadi, ka, ka, ke, ki, ku, kau, kang, ka. So we process our language at the level of syllable. Ka, that is ka and a. If we add up another vowel, it will be ka, ka and a. The third would be ki. We don't break it out like ka plus a, the way we do it at phonemic level for English. So this is not required out, and contrary to the research evidences, this is being put to practice into mainstream. Hence this needs to be looked at, because phonemes are represented in alphabet. Here I am trying to show out how the word butterfly actually can be broken down into syllables like butter and fly, and if it is broken into phonemes, that is one level higher, alphabets are supposed to be representing our phonemes. So it will be ba, a, ta, ta, e, a, r, fa, la, y, something like that. So the child has to actually decode out this entire thing. So that's quite demanding if the words are to be processed at the level of phonemes. Thus, copying out findings of English which are being done will not help the remediation of Bengali. My topic was comparing out Bengali and English. The same is true for Hindi, any Odia, any other Indian language. The 10th point which I would like to say is that the entire process, when we ask a child to write down the spelling of something, or when we ask the child to read out something, banks upon the working memory of the child. So what's working memory? Working memory actually, for example, you are hearing me, what you have to do is that you have to keep a vacant space in your perception where all the information is taken in, coded, it's converted into meaningful chunks, and we make meaning out of it. So working memory is actually a mental workbench where information is encoded into meaningful chunks. The Baddeley and Hitch, the most popular theory, that's how they define it. So here in case of literacy, when we are asking to read and spell, then the grapheme or the unit which is used to code out the utterance, may it be a syllable or a phoneme, for example A or A in Hindi, needs to correspond to its minimal speech unit. So in English, they will have to correspond out each grapheme or alphabet to the corresponding phoneme. But for Indian languages, they have to code out each grapheme, for example, this ka, to the corresponding syllable. This is a regular classroom situation, how demanding it is to have a slot of working memory dedicated towards reading and writing. We are trying to show that here. So here if you see, in a classroom the child has to ignore the noise, he has to hold his head steady, he has to focus out his eyes on the paper, he has to ignore the feeling of the clothes on his body, he has to hold a static posture the entire body, he has to put his arm properly, and he has to write down. All of these would be requiring out processing, auditory processing, tactile processing, vestibular processing, kinesthetic processing, and if there is any problem in any of these areas, as it happens to children with learning disabilities, children with autism, children with other perceptual disorders, the child will not be in a position to dedicate out that amount of working memory towards literacy. Hence, would be doing some spelling errors, would be doing some reading errors. So that is something which is the challenge in front of a child who is not into the so-called normal category. Many of us could read with the tape recorder on, while many of us could not read it, because some of us like me who could not read out with the tape recorder on was because I could not isolate out the background noise from my working memory. That background noise always interrupted that working memory which was to be dedicated towards reading and writing skills. So I had to put off the tape recorder as compared to many of my classmates who could read out with the tape recorder on. So that's the role of working memory. So hence, if we relate out working memory to literacy, then we can define it like this. Working memory is a limited capacity system of temporarily storing and processing the information required to carry cognitive tasks. The child needs to store the word cat, process the sound units in it, identify and retrieve it from the long-term memory, the grapheme, that is the alphabet of the aksharas, which is made up of, which make up the first sound. The better is his working memory, the better is the task performed. That is, it's a situation where the teacher says, write down the spelling of cat, or the teacher asks, cat starts with which alphabet or which akshara. These are the different working memory models and theories which have been put up since 1970. The most popular model was the Baddeley and Hitch model, and since then we can see have come down till the Ronberg et al. Model, which was put forth in 2008 and then in 2013, and this was specifically put down to appreciate out script specific and language specific processing and how working memory would be helping it out. So this is the short representation of Ronberg et al.'s working memory model. So I will be using the example where the teacher asks cat, write down cat in Hindi and English, and write down specifically the alphabet or akshara with which the word cat starts. So there would be a multimodal input, in this case a auditory input. The theory, the new ease of language understanding model, proposes that once the input goes in, there is a rampho or the area in the temporal lobe which tries filtering out the auditory input or the word into the constituent syllables. Syllables are CV combinations, consonant vowel combinations, and once the syllables are identified out, then tries matching out the syllables with the sound syllables with the corresponding visual representation or graphemic representation in the long-term memory. If the graphemic representations are accessed out and the sound matches with the graphemic representation stored in the long-term memory, the processing is fast and it is implicit in nature, so it will be quick. So here the example which is given is cat. So when you have to write down the spelling cat in Hindi, it will be cat and ta. Easily broken because of our training in Hindi. Ka has a specific grapheme or a symbol dedicated to it, ka, and ta has a specific symbol. So the child's rampho or the child's processing is not confused. It becomes implicit and immediately spelling can be written with no error because there is a one-to-one correspondence. But the moment a newly admitted child or a child who is learning out English new is asked to say the spelling, to write down the word cat, he may actually write down K-A-T, K-E-T, C-E-T, anything, because the first initial sound itself, C, would be spelled out like K in cat, in bicycle, in shuff, in chair, in city, and K plus A in succeed. So there are minimum of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 combinations amongst which the child has to choose out until and unless he remembers the entire chunk. So for a child who is acquiring out English new, or if I ask somebody to spell out a new word in English, these are the challenges which he will be facing up. He has to make up combinations and write down. And finally, this takes up the explicit processing loop, which is a much more time-taking and a lengthy procedure. We all can appreciate, for example, if I ask any of you to write down the spelling of the word Kendujhar, that's my hometown in Odisha, Kendujhar in English, we can guarantee that people would be having some of the other different types of spellings. But in Hindi, Odia or Bengali, if you write Kendujhar, K-Ndu-Jha-Ra, there will be no error no matter how complex it is, because the graphemes which are there correspond to syllables which are clearly broken down. So this is how the processing in Indian languages would be implicit, faster as compared to English, which requires an explicit processing loop until and unless you remember out everything. If you remember out everything, there are theories like demand and capacity model and other things. Your capacity to process out becomes slow because you have to store out so much of information. Thus, these are the multiple combinations which would be there in front of the child to choose from, to write down the instruction, write the first word with which, write the first alphabet with which cat begins. So he usually has to choose between so many combinations, which is a challenge in English literacy. The 11th point would be that if we weigh out the working memory demands, this Bengali and English comparison, then we have 44 consonants, 11 vowels and 33 aksharas, which represent 35 phonemes. So if you learn 500 combinations, which means ka, ka, ke, ki, ku, kau, kan, ka, and the juktakshars, which are there, then spelling errors in Bangla would be minimal, except for the places where representations are not clear. For example, choti ikar, badi ikar. In Sanskrit, they represent length. But in Hindi, Bengali, Odia, Kannada, Tamil, we don't have length representation. So we have to remember by rote whether it is a choti ikar or a badi ikar. Choti ukar or a badi ukar. So spelling errors would be in that. But you can code out any spelling with good amount of accuracy, and that can be read out well in Bengali or any Indian languages because of this phoneme grapheme correspondence. In English, what happens? We have 26 letters, very easy geometrical shapes, easy to learn out, but they represent 40 phonemes. And these 40 basic sounds have more than 200 to 1120 ways of spelling them. So pronunciations are not rule governed. You have to depend upon phonics, you have to depend upon learning out rhymes, you have to depend upon short-term memory skills. Somebody who has good working memory would be having good spellings as compared to somebody who has poor working memory or some type of problem like specific learning disability, attention deficit disorders or auditory perception disorders. The 12th point is that teaching methods would differ because of the differences in working memory demands. We have to follow out the same old Barakhadi method which is there for our languages. Our languages are so brilliantly arranged. Like if you see, the entire Varnamala is arranged like vowels first, consonant then. Then the consonants are arranged based upon the place of articulation. Ka, cha, ta, ta, pa. Posterior to anterior. And if this way if you see, then they are arranged based upon voiced and voiceless. Like ka, kha, voiceless, and the counterparts ga, gha are voiced. And then the last part is nasal. Nga, nya, na, na, ma. So ka would be maximally oral, N will be maximally nasal. So this is something which was done by Panini. Imagine 2000 years ago, identifying a difference between a voiced sound and a voiceless, that is the difference between K and G, would be actually 20 milliseconds. So now we are identifying it with the help of machines by voicing onsets, but I don't know how Panini identified it, but they have done it this way, and a very absolutely wonderful transparent script is there in front of us. As compared to English, here you see we teach the word alphabet. A, the taught pronunciation is A in class, but actually it occurs in so many forms. In apple it is different, in table it is different, in watch it is different, in father it is different, in any it is different, in water it is different, in banana different, in village different. There are other grain sizes in which it occurs, like I, ar. So to appropriately spell out spelling A, these are the things which the child has to learn. But for our languages, may it be Hindi, English, or Hindi, Bengali, Odia, any language, it would be a set of Barakhadi and combinations. Maximum 500. If the child learns it out, then for the entire life you will be free of spelling errors to a great extent, except for ikar, ukar, which do not have a corresponding representation. To summarize out, I would like to show a short video, a 10-second video, in which we have this same model represented out. So the model goes in like this. To summarize, here we will be having a presentation. The ease of language understanding model is being shown. So this is the ease of language understanding model. A common classroom situation in which the teacher actually asks both the group of students to write down the spelling of cat in Hindi and English. So what are the processing demands? That the moment the child hears it, then hearing always takes up the information to the temporal lobe, and seeing takes the information to the occipital lobe. So in the temporal lobe, the moment the information goes in, then the temporal lobe gets activated. According to the ease of language understanding model, the area which is specifically dedicated towards reading and spelling is the RAMPHO. The RAMPHO is made up of various sulcus and gyrus of the temporal lobe, posterior, inferior, middle and superior. The RAMPHO actually functions like a sieve, and the sieve tries filtering out the word which is said into the component syllables. So the moment the English word cat goes in, it's a single syllable word, as compared to the Hindi word cat, which is ka and ta, it's a bisyllabic word. So the moment the syllabic representation matches out the syllabic phonological representation, the processing is very fast and implicit in nature. So implicit and top-down processing happens, the child can easily write down the spelling. But to the contrary, in case the syllables which have been found out by the RAMPHO doesn't match out the syllabic phonological representation, then the explicit top-down processing model kicks up, and repeatedly the effort is there to derive out the syllables. Now if the auditory input fails out, the visual input is taken up, may it be analyzing out the shapes of the word, the visual gestural analysis and other contextual cues. So quite a bit of effort takes place. If there is a mismatch in the RAMPHO's output and the semantic long-term memory output, so the explicit processing groups takes up, and then finally after effort, it may be correct or it may be wrong, the output comes out. Thus, anything which is opaque and cannot be, a match is not found out, is slower, and identification of syllables is the first step which is there in terms of processing reading and spelling. So easier a language to be processed at the level of syllables, easier it is to write down the spellings as compared to Hindi. English will be much more difficult because we need to process it at the level of phonemes which are opaque in nature. There is no one-to-one correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful presentation. Our key speaker today is a dynamic personality who has travelled the length and breadth of the country, who lives for 6 months in the US and 6 months in India. It was very hard for me personally, to pick up few words or few sentences, or to just say a few things about him, when I'm supposed to present him in the webinar. But still, his leadership profile says that he was formerly the Vice Chancellor of CIFIL, that is the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, Hyderabad, which is now known as FLU, that is English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. He was professor of German there also, and coordinator of Academic Staff College, German, CIFIL. When I look at his academic achievements, he has many achievements to his credit. Apart from the numerous ones, some of them are: he has studied Hindi literature in Osmania University, Hyderabad. He has studied cross-cultural communication and presented many papers on it. Published well over 85 articles in professional journals, both in India and abroad. He is living in the US, Atlanta, since 2007 and taught German and Hindi at several universities since then. Professor Vridhagiri Ganeshan has trained teachers of German and English during his 32 years of his career in India. Professor Ganeshan is available for academic assignments, delivering lectures and conducting workshops on cross-cultural communication and Hinduism in the context of world religions. How to speak good English, how to speak English with confidence. Non-verbal communication and intercultural interaction are only a few out of the numerous topics that he has lectured on. His calendar, I must say, is quite tight with online talks and consultations. When people contact him for academic or personal advice, he is very prompt in answering them. So we are very fortunate and very proud to have him today among us. Professor Ganeshan, welcome, sir.
He is going to listen to the Germans who are going to speak the German English. And if somebody is going to France, teach them also a bit of French English. That's what we need. I'm coming to the end of my talk slowly. The big question remains, how do I improve my English? Particularly when I want to use English as an effective tool to find professional career opportunities and also professional business opportunities in the globalized world of today. I'm assuming that most of you are students, you have been learning English and you are eager to improve your English in the global context so that you can get better professional opportunities in international context. You see, acquiring a fluent British or American English, it requires lot of efforts and hard work. Chalega, chalta hai attitude will not help you to improve your English, because you need a rich and consistent language exposure. In India, unfortunately, this kind of exposure to British and American English is limited to the so-called upper class Indians living in big cities. But be positive, be optimistic. If you are serious about improving your English, you can use some useful strategies so that slowly you can see that your English improves, particularly even the British and American varieties in the context of globalization. See, our English teacher used to tell us, where there is a will, there is a way. But to all of you today, I would say, forget that. That's a useless statement for you. For today's generation, the new saying should be, that's what I'm telling you, where there is a way, there should be a will. You have a lot of opportunities today and you should know how to make use of them. Now, how can you improve your English successfully in the context of globalization? Remember, there are 4 basic language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And you have to improve all the skills. These skills can be grouped 2 ways. We can talk about oral skills, that will be listening and speaking, or the written skills, that will be reading and writing. We can also group them by the direction of communication, which will be receiving, that is listening or reading, that's called receptive skills, and producing, speaking and writing, that will be productive skills. The general way We learn the skills or in this order. First listening, then speaking, then reading, then writing. And speaking is the most difficult one. As a child, we listened to the language around us, started saying few words, sentences, started speaking our mother tongue. Then we went to the school and learned with the help of the teacher to read sentences and simple text and slowly started producing written text. If you want to improve your English, you have to develop all the 4 skills. Let me offer you some strategies today for improving your English. Actually, I have about 100 suggestions, but I'm not giving you all the suggestions today because shortage of time. I'm going to give you some 25 to 28 suggestions. Let me just go through them quickly. Number 1, don't be afraid to make mistakes when you speak English, when you write English. Committing mistakes is part of life. Be confident. From mistakes, we always learn. But the only thing is, don't commit the same mistakes again and again. I don't know how many of you realize that you have done a big mistake in your life today. I'm a mind reader. I can read your mind. I know that all of you have done a big mistake today in your life. You don't know it, but I know it. But I can tell you what is the mistake you have done. You know, the biggest mistake you have done today is coming and listening to my lecture. Well, that was a joke. Number 2, surrender yourself in English. Put yourself in an all English speaking environment where you can learn passively. The best way to learn is through speaking as much English as possible. But unfortunately, you go to any university in India, including the English and Foreign Language University, you think students speak in English with each other? No. Go to the canteen and see. Go to the mess and see. All Bengalis on one side. All Telugus on one side. All Gujaratis on one side. Talking their own language. Forming groups. So when will your English improve? You have to mix with everybody. Stop talking in your own language. Particularly when you have gone somewhere to improve your English. Speak English. You have to practice every day. You can't just improve your English by practicing English before the exam starts. Have you ever heard Lata Mangeshkar telling you she practices singing only on Tuesdays? Have you ever heard Dhoni telling you he practices cricket only on Sundays? If you want to master something, you have to practice every day. Make yourself a study plan. Decide how much time a week you are going to spend and stick to that and drop all the other engagements. 4, keep a notebook of new words you learn. Use them in sentences. Create your own dictionary of words and list sentences which you can actively use. Learn, number 5, learn every new word with a full sentence. Never learn a word as a word. You will find words easier to remember if you try to remember an example sentence using that word rather than the word on its own. The word cricket, if you learn it as a word, for you as an Indian it means a game. For most of the Americans it's an insect, it's not a game. Number 6, don't follow always the methods which your teacher recommends. They can be sometimes useless because you have your own method of learning languages, you have learned other languages. So find out what are the methods which work best for you. Think about those methods. They are successful for you, so there's nothing wrong in continuing to use them. Number 7, figure out how to learn. How do you learn? It can be memorizing, loud reading, summarizing text, standing in front of a mirror and talking to yourself, or any other method. Number 8, how to study best. Find out. Can you study better in the morning? Can you study better in the evening? Decide that. Find a quiet place by yourself or learn with a group also. Number 9, start asking questions. When you don't understand something, don't keep quiet, don't feel shy, get help. If you don't understand something, ask someone. Ask your teacher, classmates, or friends for help. Number 10, watch DVDs and videos rather than watching TV. Because in TV, you can watch it only once, and it's gone. It is better to use a video or a DVD that you can watch over and over again and to catch the information you might have missed when you watched it for the first time. Number 11, read smaller books first. Don't jump into Shakespeare, Hamlet, and at the end get confused. Because English professors will tell you to read great books like Paradise Lost. Don't do that, because your English will be lost. Read small books, read graded readers, choose books which are especially written for your level, where you are right now. Children's books have easier words and are a good alternative to graded readers, so read a lot of children's books to start with. Number 12. Newspapers are a good help to learn new sentences and phrases. Read a newspaper daily. Number 13. When you read a sentence for the first time, don't worry about understanding each and every word. This is a big Indian disease. For a word you don't understand a sentence, look at the other words around it. Try to guess the meaning of the word. Don't jump to the dictionary. By guessing, you learn much better than jumping to dictionary or trying to ask others what does this word mean. Number 14. When you learn a new word, think of all its other forms. You learn beautiful, adjective. Learn beauty, noun. Learn beautifully, adverb. Learn beautician, noun. Learn prefixes and suffixes. Some prefixes have fixed kind of meaning. If you take dis, learn dislike, disregard. If you learn un, unnecessary, unusual. You learn re, reopen, recharge. Collect those words. And suffixes, ly, li. Monthly, costly, mentally, or ment, men, disappointment, investment, full, painful, careful, helpful. That is how you can improve your vocabulary. Number 16, don't translate in English sentences from your mother tongue and think it has become English. That does not become English. Think in English to improve your fluency. That's what is called a feeling for the language. When you speak English, you should think in English. The sentences should automatically come out in English. 17, learn how to say the same thing by using different sentences. Don't say all your lifetime, I am hungry, I am hungry, I am hungry, I am hungry. They will say you are a boring person. The moment you learn an English sentence, try to formulate the same sentence in different ways without changing the meaning. For example, you can say I am hungry. You can say I am feeling hungry. You can say I need to eat something quickly. You can say I have to eat something urgently. You can say, can you please give me something to eat now? You can say, if I don't eat something now, I'm going to fall down, unconscious. Number 18, write a diary in English. Write down all that what you did during the day. Even if you're young, you are in the habit of interacting with your boyfriend or girlfriend, write them love letters in English. Don't use all the old Hindi songs, however beautiful they are, like Chaudhary ka Chand ho, Ya Aftab ho, Jo bhi ho tum, Khuda ki kasam, Lajawab ho. All that you can use later on. But write letters in English. Number 19. Learn English songs and sing them loudly. This is very, very important. So don't sing Hum Honge Kamyab. Sing it in English. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Because that will positively motivate you to overcome your difficulties, improve your English. Because if you are singing it in Hindi, Hum Honge Kamyab, Hum Honge Kamyab. But because you are lazy to put in efforts, you will slowly start singing Hum Honge Kamchor, Hum Honge Kamchor. Listen to English using the old radio. Listen to news in the radio. Listen to announcements in radio. That is listening comprehension. You can listen to a lot of things on internet also. Go and listen to those things. 21. Record your voice and listen to your own pronunciation and intonation. You will find out what are your mistakes. It will help you to identify your problems and improve them. 22. Use an English dictionary, as it will help you to keep thinking in English and not translating. Avoid using a bilingual dictionary. If you can't use a big English dictionary, use a learner's dictionary for your level. There's Oxford Learner's Dictionary, Cambridge Learner's Dictionary. Start with that. 23. Use resources which match your level. Don't use text and listening exercises which are too difficult or also too easy. You have to have a progression. Move from easy ones to more difficult ones. Use materials which are a little more challenging, but they should not frustrate you. 24. Learn new English phrases and idioms and learn how to use them and how not to use them. It's very important. It's not just learning a phrase. I learned the Hindi phrase, Aapki dua hai. So I can give you an example. A old man tells a young man in Hindi, अरे बेटा सुना तुमको बढ़िया नौकरी मिली और बोले बेटा सुना तुम एग्जाम में फर्स्ट रैंक में निकले. The young man can say आपकी दुआ है. Old man says, बेटा सुना तुमको बढ़िया नौकरी मिली, 1 लाख है तनख्वाह. Young man कहते आपकी दुआ है. The old man says, the young man tells the young man, अरे सुना तुम्हारी शादी होने वाले, बहुत खूबसूरत लड़की है. The young man can say, आपकी दुआ है. The old man tells the young man, अरे सुना तुम्हारा बेटा हुआ. The young man cannot say आपकी दुआ है, but it has a different meaning. So I have to learn my Hindi by learning them phrases properly. 25. Try to speak as much English as you can with everybody around you. You start the conversation. Don't wait for others. They will all start talking. Don't be afraid. Don't think my English is not good. I will commit grammar mistakes, vocabulary mistakes. People will laugh at me. Forget all that from today. Always remember one thing. The moment you open your mouth, that's the best way to speak English. No course, no workshop will help you. Don't waste your time, spend money on that. Open your mouth and start speaking. There are 2 places where you should not go if you don't want to open your mouth. One is your language course. The other one is the dentist. That is why the Congress party for 10 years could not find a dentist in Delhi for Manmohan Singh ji, because all the dentists said, हम उनकी क्या इलाज करेंगे, वो तो मुंह खोलते ही नहीं है. So start speaking. And always remember this. The moment you open your mouth and start speaking your English, however bad it is no more your problem. It becomes a problem of the person who is listening to you. तो उसका problem है. अब आराम से बात कीजिए. 25. 26. Debate. Conduct discussions with your friends in your group. Have debating competitions. Choose your topic and discuss about it. You may not agree with each other, that's not important, but you have to express your opinion, so you will learn different opinions and how to express them. Okay. 27. Learn English with your friend. Always practice English with other people and you can motivate each other. Don't learn alone. Then the last one, make use of the internet in a proper way. Internet is full of resources where you can help to learn English, where you can improve your English. There's a BBC Learning English. There's a learnenglish.eceenglish.com. There are also some other things. Always remember, the more efforts you put in, the better your English will become. In German we say, aus nichts kommt nichts, which means from nothing comes nothing. So, if you have any questions, if you want any strategies, tips, feel free to contact me. Write down my email address. My email address is German Ganeshan, one word, all written small, German Ganeshan, the language and my name together, germanganeshan@gmail.com. You can write to me about any problems you have. Problems with the language, literature, language learning, problems with anything else. Problems with families, friends, with your girlfriend, boyfriend, write to me. I can give you advice. You will find me on the Facebook. Look for Ganeshan, German Ganesh. Drop the ear. Remember my face and talk to the right person on the Facebook. On the Facebook, you will also find a group called Students of Ganeshan. You can join the group. 700 students of mine from all over the world, they are in that group. Whenever you feel dull, you feel depressed in life, go to your page on the Facebook called Swami Dukhanand. There you will find philosophical messages, spiritual messages which can cheer you up. If you want to meet Swami Dukhanand, don't worry, you need not do anything because you have been listening to Swami Dukhanand for the last 50 minutes. I am Swami Dukhanand. Let me conclude. In our talk today, we have spoken about the importance of multilingual skills in the context of learning English as a foreign language in India. But let us not forget the other languages also. English is important for India, but other foreign languages are also becoming important. Although English remains the universal language of the world, looking at other leading countries in the world like Germany, France, Italy, and Spain, it's also important for Indian students to learn other foreign languages like German, French, Italian, and Spanish. If you also look at the emerging developing countries, economies like Brazil, Russia, China, South Korea, and Saudi Arabia, Indian students should be motivated to learn also other foreign languages like Portuguese, Russian, Chinese, Korean, and Arabic for their future professional success in the globalized world. Therefore, in addition to English, learn another foreign language, also depending on your plans and your professional needs. Let me finish with a small story. There was a cat walking around with its small two kittens, with its children. Suddenly a dog came and started barking at them. The dog said, "Bow, bow!" The cat and the kitten got worried. The kitten got afraid. The cat and the kitten went and hid inside a hole. The dog could not enter the hole. It was standing in front of the hole, sniffing around. The kitten was shivering. The mother cat smiled at the kitten and said, "Don't worry. I am there, no, I will solve the problem. Don't be afraid of the dog." So the mother cat told the kitten, "Pareshan nahi hona, main hoon na." You know what the mother cat did? The mother cat suddenly made a big sound, a bigger sound than the dog. The mother cat said, "Bow, bow!" The dog got afraid because it thought there's a bigger dog, so it ran away. Mother cat smiled at the little kitten and said, "See, that is the advantage of knowing a foreign language." So all of you learn English, improve your English in the globalized context, and try to learn some other foreign languages also. I hope this talk was useful to you. I thank you all for your patience. I wish each and every one of you what you wish for yourself. If you want to listen to more from me, invite me to give more talks on online. We'll discuss several topics. Or invite me to your institute when I come to India next year. I can give them several talks and conduct some workshops. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Sir, thank you. Sir, thank you. Can you hear me,
Yes,
sir?
I can hear you. Thank you.
Sir, there was one question
Yes.
from Kumar Mahindra.
Sure.
I couldn't find many questions. I could find one, so I would like to put it up here.
Okay.
The question is, how multilingual skills are helpful in the learning of children with special needs at primary level?
See, my answer to that would be, see, not only children, special children, but even for the normal average children, don't burden them with too many languages at the beginning. A child has to learn step by step. So first, give the foundation in their own language. Then add another language. Then add another language. See, what is happening is, in our over-enthusiasm, we are dumping 3 to 4 languages already at the primary school level. I don't think that's good. Even though India is a multilingual country, and children, if at all it's required, they will automatically pick up in their environment, wherever they are living, languages, different languages. A child will not pick up a language if it thinks it's not necessary for it. So what I would do is, because you see, even teaching a language to special children, you must be conscious of the fact you cannot use the same method. If you're teaching a child Hindi to special children, you have to use a particular kind of method. If you're teaching the same children English, your methodology has to be a little different. If you're teaching the children German or Japanese, it has to be different. So it's a very challenging task for the teacher. So I would say, I mean, it's nothing new what I'm telling you, particularly children who have special needs, you should be handling them much more carefully than the way we handle the normal children, because with the normal children sometimes we are very, very unfriendly, very, very cruel, and we create a lot of psychological problems. Even normal children should be handled with soft gloves. That would be my answer at the moment.
Thank you so much, sir. And actually, in the field of disability, we avoid the word normal, because we think that there is no one in this world who is normal. Everyone has everyone. So we avoid that. Either children with special needs or with no special needs, like that. Even for the sighted, we use sighted or non-sighted.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with
Yes,
you.
sir.
I just use the word normal, not as a value judgment. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. And you know how Indian mothers-in-law always think that the bahu, the daughter-in-law, is not normal. But the daughter-in-law is, has special characteristics and special qualities.
That's an old thing, sir. Now today's generation is different. So even the mother-in-law thinks that the bahu, that everyone is. I think she will also accept that nobody is normal now.
Well, I think you are letting out a family secret, maybe, that you are telling us you have an excellent mother-in-law. But that's not the case.
Of course, sir, I do have one.
Yeah, you see, I know
Thank you
it.
so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the session. I got many things, but the points those you gave me were the takeaways, from this event. Some of them I would just highlight. There's nothing called preponed in advance. In advance is the correct one. Practice English every day. Do not make groups based on language. As you said, even CIFIL, they form Bengali groups, Hindi groups like that. That should not happen. And think in English to speak in English. Formulate the same sentence in different sentences. Write a diary in English. Write letters in English. Sing "We Shall Overcome" to gain confidence. Those are some of them I could write. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
I am seeing several people putting up questions in their messages. My request to them, please send me an email because there's no time now. Send me an email and I'll answer your questions. They're very interesting questions. So send me those by email.
Can I ask a few ones, sir, now?
Sure, you can ask me as many questions as you want. I'm at your disposal.
There is one question from Neetu Gupta. She's asking why Indian English is not encouraged in the present scenario. That's a very good question, I feel. And it is, yes, sir.
It's a very good question because if I want to give you one simple answer in Hindi,
right, sir.
We don't appreciate Indian English.
Right.
We don't encourage Indian English because we think Ghar ki murgi dal barabar. Even though today the price of dal is sometimes higher than that of the murgi. We are all so fascinated, we are still colonial, we think English is still not our language. We admire the other English all the time. And these are two different things. India needs Indian English, there's nothing wrong in Indian English. There's nothing wrong in communicating in Indian English within India, and we should encourage our children to pick up Indian English, use it, there's nothing wrong. But for professional purposes, you will have to teach them a better English, the best English, sometimes the British or American English. See, this is like the mother tongue, mother tongue is your eyes. Every other language is your contact lens. We teach children to learn walking. There's nothing wrong learning walking. So you'll have to learn, walking before you can start dancing Bharatnatyam or Kuchipudi or Kathak, whatever it is. So I'm very much for it. So don't feel ashamed if you speak Indian English. But understand, it is a tool for communicating with fellow Indians who may not have the necessity and need to learn a British or American English. Nothing wrong in that. But if you want to professionally be in a globalized world, then you will have to get out of your Indian English and also start using British, American, Australian, all kinds of English.
Okay. Sir,
yes.
यानी आप कह रहे हैं सर हिंदी जितना जरूरी है इंग्लिश भी जरूरी है, समथिंग लाइक दैट?
क्या मतलब?
इंग्लिश जरूरी है सीखना आज के सिनेरियो में, ये कह रहे हैं आप? आज के सिनेरियो में
देखिए, इंग्लिश सीखना आज के जमाने में जरूरी है. जब मैं बोलता हूँ इंग्लिश सीखना जरूरी है, इसका मतलब मैं नहीं बोल रहा हूँ आपको ब्रिटिश और अमेरिकन इंग्लिश ही सीखना है. वो तब सीखना है जब जरूरत पड़ती है. बट जरूर इंडियन इंग्लिश सीखना है बिकॉज यू नीड इट टू कम्युनिकेट with the rest of your Indian fellow citizens. So don't sit in North India and not learning any other Indian languages, South Indian languages for example, even as your goodwill, but expect all the South Indians to learn Hindi. Don't do that. If you want a real India, we have to exchange Indian languages also. So the communication for most of us as Indians, because we speak different languages, is the Indian English. So there is nothing wrong in learning and using Indian English.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, one question from me personally. लोग जो हिंदी स्पीकिंग है या जो मदर टंग जिनका है ज्यादा, इसमें मतलब हेजिटेशन इज द मेन रोल ना सर, वो हिचकते हैं इंग्लिश बात करने में, इंग्लिश में बोलने में, उनके लिए आपका क्या राय होगा? क्या आप सजेस्ट करेंगे कि लोग डरते हैं ना, कोई लोग ऐसे हैं कि डरते हैं कि भाई हमारी इंग्लिश बाहर निकल आएगी, लोग हमारा मजाक उड़ाएंगे, समथिंग लाइक दैट।
वही मैं बोला ना, आपको डरने की जरूरत नहीं है।
ओके सर।
आप अपने अंग्रेजी को ऐसे इस्तेमाल करो और दिमाग में सोचते रहो हम किसी से कम नहीं।
राइट।
द प्रॉब्लम इज इंडियंस जनरली डोंट हैव प्रॉब्लम्स व्हेन दे हैव टू स्पीक इंडियन लैंग्वेजेस।
राइट।
मारवाड़ी लोग जो साउथ इंडिया आते हैं, सरदार जी जो साउथ इंडिया आते हैं, दे स्पीक तेलुगु, तमिल, मलयालम, और साउथ इंडियन जो नॉर्थ आता है वो हिंदी बोल लेता है टूटा फूटा, but he is not afraid. But when it comes to English, we all get afraid. That is the colonial mentality, because we think English is very difficult. When you speak English, we should not commit any mistakes. And that's a wrong idea. Get rid of that from your head. Don't be afraid. Speak. Now, why are the people afraid? Because the Indian society does not allow children to ask questions. We teach the children to walk and talk till they are 5 years old. Till the child is 5 years old, the whole family is happy. देखो 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 वो चल रहा है, ha ha ha. देखो मामा बोल दिया, ha ha ha. The same child, when it becomes 5 years old, you tell the child to sit down and shut up and listen to the elders and do whatever the elders are telling them to do. No questions are allowed. पापा कहिए, grandfather कर रहे थे, सवाल नहीं पूछना, करना है. Blind respect. It's a respect out of fear. We don't encourage our children to ask questions, to think on their own, take their own decision. No. Parents will take all the decisions, overprotect the children. And that's why when our students finish their studies, they take an interview in the corporate company, they hear the name group discussion for the first time, they get nervous because there has never been a group discussion in the family.
Right.
That is the problem.
Sir, one more, because all questions are coming in my mind. In communicative English, जब हम इंग्लिश में बात करते हैं एक दूसरे से, तो इसमें ग्रामेटिकल मिस्टेक्स या ग्रामर का कितना रोल होता है? इज इट वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट ग्रामर बिल्कुल करेक्ट होना चाहिए बात करते समय, या जैसे प्रपोजिशन स्पेशली लोग गलतियां करते हैं, ऑफ कहाँ लगाना है, इन कहाँ लगाना है, ये सब गलती क्या माफ हो सकता है सर?
देखिए, माफ करने की बात ही नहीं होती.
Right.
They can be used. See, I understand one thing. When you talk of communicative English, you talk of mostly speaking skill. When you speak a language, grammar is not very important. What is important is called intelligibility. Whether you are able to tell the other person something and he is able to understand. That is called intelligibility. Each language has got rules for written language, but they don't apply to spoken language. See, first I'll give you an example from Hindi, then I'll tell you a small story about an English teacher. In Hindi, I learn prepositions. Then I come across a sentence. I'm at the railway station. Then I get the announcement, दिल्ली से जयपुर आने वाली शताब्दी एक्सप्रेस चंद मिनटों में प्लेटफॉर्म नंबर 10 पर आने की संभावना है. वो सुनते ही मैं पीछे हट जाता, इसलिए कि प्लेटफॉर्म पर गाड़ी आ रही है, और गाड़ी तो रेल की पटरी पर आती है, प्लेटफॉर्म पर थोड़ी आती है. So you are using Hindi preposition. I'll give you one more example. शाकाहारी जो होते हैं ना, वो तो मांस नहीं खाते हैं, but I know lot of Indian vegetarians, North Indians, particularly Jains, जो हिंदी बोलते हैं, वो तो मांस नहीं खाते हैं, फिर भी वो लोग लोगों की बेजा खाते हैं. ये कैसे मुमकिन है? So every language has got its own peculiarities. See, an English teacher from Kanpur came to Hyderabad to the English Institute for training. Evening he went to buy some things. At the crossroads, Tarmaka crossroads, motorcycle hit him, he fell down. So what happens now? He's feeling weak, he wants some water. Do you think he is going to think himself, oh, I'm an English teacher who has come for a special English training, I should use crowd English? You think he's going to look at the crowd, the 200 people around him, and speak a good English and say, excuse me, would you mind getting me a glass of water? He's not going to do it. He is going to only say, water, water. And nobody is going to tell him, where is the full sentence, where is subject, where is verb, where is preposition.
Right.
No, not in
Right.
spoken language. He will get his water. And people even will think, अरे आदमी मरने वाला है, पानी पूछ रहा है, शायद गंगा जल पूछ रहा है, आसपास पानी नहीं है, मगर एक वाइन शॉप खुला है, कोई वहां से विस्की लाके उसमें मुंह पे पिला देगा. देखिए एक शब्द अंग्रेजी में बोल दिया, उसको पुगट में विस्की मिलता है. So open your mouth and talk English. Don't be afraid of it.
Right, sir. So that's the main takeaway, I think. I think you have answered one more question over here. Is it important to speak with an accent, or speaking a language correctly is sufficient? That's the answer. Neera Gujarati had asked this question.
Yes,
think
I'll give a short answer on that.
Yes,
See,
sir.
pronunciation is important, but don't overdo it and
Right.
don't underestimate it. Some situations you have to be very careful about the pronunciation. Some situations you need not. If you
Right.
are using your English, you go to a restaurant, you want to order a beer. I'm giving a German example maybe. If you are going to England, you want to order a beer. You can tell in the restaurant, I want a beer, I want a beer, I want a beer. You will get your beer. But think of this Bengali gentleman whom they sent to England as our ambassador. He went and met the Queen. It was New Year's Day. The British Queen smiled at our Bengali gentleman and said, welcome to Great Britain. I wish you a happy New Year. Our Bengali gentleman smiled and told the Queen, shame to you. There you need a right pronunciation.
Yes, sir. That was perfectly explained, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you
Thank
once
you.
again and it was a pleasure having you here, sir. Thank you.
Send me all the other questions by email, I'll answer, no problem. Thank you very much.
Right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are now privileged to have with us today as our next speaker, Shri Kamalveer Singh Jaggi sir, who has been the principal of Model School for the Visually Handicapped, that is MSVH Dehradun. It will be no exaggeration to say that he has been like the candle who burnt itself to light others. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the teacher, the educator, the principal, and now the coordinator of the Department of Special Education, NIEPVD. So, Shri Kamalveer Singh Jaggi sir. Sir, please, you can start, sir, now.
Hello. Am I
Yes.
audible now?
Yes, sir, now you are audible very much.
ये वाला.
Sir,
Okay, so
sir will be speaking on the, he will share his experiences rather of teaching English to the students with visual disabilities as well as students without any visual disabilities. Thank you, sir.
okay, yeah. First of all, thank you very much for your kind words, Pushpanjali. And the inaugural session, the inaugural session taken by Professor Nachiketa Raut was a revelation for me. He really has a very profound knowledge on linguistics, and I seek a promise from him that whenever the sessions begin again, classes begin again, he will take a regular session with my students who have opted for teaching of English on a session on transcription of phonetic script. So I hope he will take a session then. I begin, and at the same time, a very elaborate work has been done by Professor Ganeshan also, and we all benefit from it, from your experiences. Language is a skill. It is. I do not perceive it as a subject. And the primary objective of learning a language has to be communication. The emphasis, of course, is on developing communicative skills of students. And as Professor Ganeshan also talked about, the 4 basic skills of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The classification of these skills, of course, is first two skills, that is listening and speaking, are oral skills, oral, and also the primary skills. And there's a different classification of these skills also. Listening and reading are known as receptive skills or input skills. Similarly, speaking and writing are the expressive skills or output skills or productive skills. The teacher develops these skills of students concurrently, and sometimes there is a focus on any specific skill also. And different classification of these skills, as I said earlier, helps teacher to plan his lessons accordingly for the class, so that the students come up with a development of these skills separately as well as concurrently. Students try to take it as a subject because they have to pass their exam, they have to appear for their exams, because of which their language skills are not developed. Particularly, expressive skills of students are not developed. They listen to the teachers very carefully. They read their books all right, but when it comes to expression, they fail there. They are reluctant also. They have inhibitions also. So the emphasis has to be on developing their expressive skills with special dealing of these skills. Having said all this, I must say that still students take a lot of interest in learning the language because they are quite conscious of the utility aspect. Even the slightest ability of being able to handle the language may get them this noise, can it be reduced somehow? There is a lot of noise in between. Okay, as I said, I was talking about this skills. Even the slightest ability of being able to handle the language may get them enthusiastic. They may make them enthusiastic. And they also associate it with name and fame. Somebody who learns English and speaks English well, expresses himself or herself in English, is given a deeper kind of a respect by the others. That's what they feel. This is not what I say. That's what the students feel. My experiences of teaching sighted children, I have taught them for 16 years, and these groups include boys, girls, and even co-education students in co-education also. And generally my classes have been at the secondary level and senior secondary level. I've also been able to teach teachers. I was a teacher trainer also for in-service training programs. Boys, girls, and co-educational schools, they've all given me a very general kind of experience, and I've noticed that mostly these students have been first generation learners. And they've had very little parental or family support. Only one period of English of 40 minutes has been the only exposure for them to a foreign language. This way, expecting them to develop their skills with perfection is somehow over expectation from us. They associated glamour with having the opportunity to learn English also. And the story element with a variety of themes was enough to attract their attention and keep them glued to their classes. But in spite of this, they could not muster enough courage to express themselves. Generally speaking, they lacked confidence. And this confidence building measure is something which is essential on the part of the teachers, the administrators, etc. I remember one student who always wrote his answers in Hindi. In spite of repeated reminders to him, he did not change his habit. And, and I also remember one student confusing bridge with the word pull in Hindi. Pull in English means something. आवाज गई क्या? Pull in English means something else. Pull, whereas pull in Hindi means bridge. So this student always used to write pull for bridge in his answers. This is one experience. And there have been so many other experiences, and I've noticed that girls are more regular in their learning, sighted girls particularly, and they come out with their homeworks. Boys skip their homeworks. They are not very regular with their homeworks also. As far as teaching English to visually impaired is concerned, it's been much the same, more or less. But my experience has been that they have been able to retain better. They are better retainers, and they retain it for a longer time. I remember these students used to sit regularly in their classes, wait for their classes, and also request for extra periods, just because of their enthusiasm to learn a foreign language which will help them get employment later on. And I believe a good teacher for them is someone who is regular, punctual, and sounds interesting and convincing in the class. This is enough to arouse their enthusiasm and interest. But at the same time, I've noticed that in both groups, mother tongue always dominates over L2, that is second language, that is English. In spite of the repeated reminders that they should communicate in English, they never did so. I've noticed that they could never overcome their inhibitions or reluctance to speak in English, which has to really be taken care of by the teachers. But I do really miss my sessions with them, visually impaired students, because they've been somehow, I must say, better learners. They've been very, very regular with their works, but at the same time, they shirked from attempting their homeworks. I have plenty of experiences, but I think since I was given about 5 to 10 minute session, and that also probably is overlapping. So I'll wind it up here, and at the same time, I would really look for a forum to express my experiences at some other time again. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Since we have come to the end of this session, I would like to thank people who have given me all-round help in conducting this seminar. I would first of all thank Professor Giridhagiri Ganeshan to give his valuable time to speak for us in this occasion. I would take the opportunity to thank the large print unit of Central Braille Press, NIEPVD Dehradun, in charge Sri Sunil Shirpurkar sir, for his support in designing the brochure and to actually encourage me for this webinar. Dr. Pankaj Kumar sir for all-round ICT facilitation, Kamalbir Singh Jaggi sir for coordinating, most importantly Director sir Shri Nachiketa Rag for permitting me to hold this webinar. Thank you so much sir. Thank you everyone. Thank you participants, without whose support this webinar would not have been possible. We are ever grateful to you participants for giving us your valuable time, which is very cherished. We will always remember you all. We'll try to answer your questions. Some of them of course we have taken up, but some of them which we have not been able to take, we regret for that. But as Sir Ganeshan has mentioned, we'll try to put up these questions to him through email and maybe he'll be able to answer you. Thank you so much.